Welcome to the Instinctive Influencers Podcast, a show where influence becomes one of your tools for success. Now, here are your hosts, Brian Weber and Ed Haley.
Hi, I'm Brian, and this is not Ed. This is, well, he's much older than Ed. Actually, I've invited my father-in-law on because I wanted to kind of pick his brain a little bit. I don't know if that's safe, but we'll see where we go with this.
As long as I have some left over, it'll be okay.
Yeah, well, that's debatable. We'll see it.
Okay.
No, Ed is not with us this week, but it's okay. He and I will start recording again next week. But really, what we're going to get into is we're going to talk a little bit about spiritual fitness, right? So we've talked about physical fitness before, and we've talked about different avenues of approach to basically helping people to become better leaders. Well, there are other areas in our life that we want to learn to improve upon and we want to become better at. So why not then have my own personal preacher come on and talk to me, everyone, a little bit. But before we can do that, we have different things we have to do, right? So some of those are we have to do what's called instinctive response. And you have to answer 10 questions unprovoked and just kind of go over what you think would be the answer you would give to these.
Depends on what the questions are, how provoked I will get.
Well, we'll see. All right. So question number one, right off the bat.
Okay.
What's something you've won and how did you win it?
Oh, goodness. I don't know if I've ever won anything in my life. From a prize standpoint, because I don't play prizes because I don't do those things very often. Usually, even when I go to some places selling raffle tickets, I just give them the money and say, here it is, take it. Give somebody else a better chance. But what have I won? Well, I just win at life. I mean, I've got a blessed life. That's not what you want, I know.
No, it's your answer.
But my answer is I'm winning at life. I mean, I've got 3 great kids and you got 3 great in-laws. Well, most of them.
Most of them.
Yeah. And I got 6 grandkids and 2 great grandkids, and I got a loving wife, and
11 wives?
Loving.
Oh, okay. Just want to make sure.
Yeah. No, I'm not. I haven't joined the other faiths yet. But that's one thing I said. That may answer your question, but
no, it's fine. Here's question number 2. What's something you intended to do today but didn't, and why not?
Well, today, with y'all down over everything else, the only thing I intended to do today was spend time with y'all and the grandkids. Yeah. I've done that. One thing in a larger sense, I need to clean my garage out.
So you can barely see it, those of you listening. So that was my introduction to the family years ago. Right before, when I first met Michelle, I was dating her and I was coming down here, and then all of a sudden I found out this guy was going to build a garage, and I got conned into, trying to earn my way in, and I had to help build this. But that's the garage. And when he said cleaned out, it's not something he's going to do in one day, not in 1 month, maybe 1 year. That's what I'm thinking.
Well, I'm thinking about maybe using that as punishment for my kids and their families, is that when I pass away or anything else, they'll have to clean that up, and that way they remember me the whole time. Usually in a derogatory sense, but still.
Hey, so my next question plays perfectly off this. As soon as I saw this question, I was like, this is the person I have to ask this question to.
Uh-oh.
Who's the biggest pack rat you know?
Debbie.
Oh, your wife.
Yeah.
No, she is not. That's horrible, man.
Well, she is through a secondary issue because, she's not the pack rat, but I am. So she's a pack rat
there it comes out. Ladies and gentlemen, the biggest pack rat I know right here. It just has a lot of stuff.
I have a lot of stuff. I'm the type of guy, I'll loan a tool out or something and I'll need another one, or I've lost it. And what I do, instead of go getting it back, I just buy another one.
Oh,
so I got like 20 sets of ratchets and wrenches out there.
Yeah.
And I got plenty of tools.
He has a lot of tools, and I've borrowed a lot of those tools, and I'm probably the reason why he has to go buy another one, because I'd be the one who borrowed.
My best advice, though, about that, that's one of the questions, was Brian was doing something one time, and I told him, you'll need some more clamps. You never have enough clamps. And he got 2. I think I ended up giving him 6 of them. And he came back later and doing it. He said, you know something, Dudley? He said, I could have used a couple more clamps.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I got clamps.
Oh, you've got plenty because that was a Christmas gift for years with a gift
Yeah,
card
that was
from
a
us.
joke. Everybody got
Yeah.
me clamps.
Yeah. All right. So, what's something valuable that you accidentally dropped and broke? Describe the
Oh.
situation.
Oh, I accidentally dropped and broke. With them finding out or not finding out? Oh, well,
It's you.
okay. The one that comes, I have dropped things all my life and broke things, but I remember the one thing when I was growing up, my
Mhm.
grandmother had decorative pillows on her couch, and they had little buttons in them, and we was all the time, pitching back and forth. And she said one time, "Don't quit throwing those things; you're going to bust them." And she went to the other part of the room, and Paul and I, which was her foster child at the time, we threw them, and I threw them at Paul, and when I did, it popped open, and I tried my best to make it look like it never happened. She
The
came
pillow busted open.
the button, everything that was inside of it, held all together, flew off,
Oh,
and so that's the only thing I know that I busted that I was warned ahead of time and done anyway. Now, there again, I don't know if that answers your question or not, but that's one thing I always stand back in my mind.
no, it's funny. Did you never tell anyone?
Oh, she came in and she saw it. And as soon as she came in, she said, "Y'all been throwing my pillows at me." I said, "How can you tell?" And, at that time, she was probably in her 70s. And so she
Yeah.
knew.
Is she the one that lived behind your mother?
Yes.
Okay,
Mhm.
yeah, I met her a couple times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Y'all was living in Ohio then.
Yeah.
Mm.
What's your favorite kind of candy?
Oh, I love semi-sweet chocolates.
Yes, you do. Yes, he
I love,
does.
and that's for a reason. When I was growing up, um, everybody usually got to the candy before I did. And everything, only thing that was ever left, or only thing wasn't a fight over, was semi-sweet chocolates. And so I just got where I got those and learned to eat those, and
Hmm.
because I knew nobody else would fight for them. And so I knew if I was going to eat chocolates, I better get those, or I'll be without.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, because I was kind of the smallest one around.
Semi-sweet. I mean, I kind of like semi-sweet. I like darker chocolates
I
too.
like dark chocolates. Yeah,
Yeah,
mhm.
yeah.
Well, I kind of put those in the same dark chocolate and semi-sweets in the same category.
So this question, it's actually kind of like multiple questions in
Okay.
one question. So it
Okay.
doesn't count as more than one. Have you ever been an audience member for any television show? Which ones? For which ones would you like to be an audience member? So have you been one? And if you haven't, what would you like to have been an audience member in?
One time I was an audience member, not a participant, but an audience member. I had a girl that worked for me. Her husband worked for the um, for the Ryman,
Mm.
when the Ryman moved over to the
Oh,
Opryland,
yeah.
and he was a cameraman there. And so at church, some of the girls and some of the people there said we'd like to go see a filming of the Ralph Emery show.
Okay.
And so I asked her if she could do that. She said, "Oh, yeah, I can get you passes." And so we loaded up a van from church and went up there. It was about 3 or 4 adults and 5 or 6 kids.
Mhm.
And Randy Travis happened to be there that night. And he was saying that song just came out as I don't know what the name of it is, but when old men sit and talk about the weather, and when old
Yeah.
women sit and talk about old
Yeah.
men, that whatever
Yeah.
that song.
That's a good song.
Yeah, I don't know the name of it, but that was on everything else. And Pat, one of the girls there, that was her favorite uh, entertainer,
That's
and
good.
she loved it. She just almost swooned there because of Randy Travis there, and he sang his number one song. And so, until she passed away, she still kidded me about that one.
That would have been in the 90s, I think.
It probably was, yeah.
I think it was because
Mhm.
I remember maybe late 80s. Might have been late 80s. I don't know. Now I'm gonna look it up later, so we'll
Yeah.
find out. And then I'll leave it in the bottom here.
And the one as far as being a participant on
Yeah.
was there was a commercial one time. There was a Ford dealership, Buick dealership here in town, and they were doing a commercial for they was doing a big
Mhm.
um had a fair, one of those what
Mhm.
businesses used to do, had a merry-go-round, a little small Ferris wheel, and a bunch of clown stuff around.
Mhm.
Well, they picked up all the smaller kids and took them in the back, and it's what well, anyway, and they put us all inside of a car,
Like just a vehicle. Yeah.
just a vehicle.
Yeah.
That was a commercial. It was
Okay.
a Buick dealership, and so that was coming in, and we were stacked up like cordwood. They took the back seats out, and they took the passenger seat out, and the trunk was all open, and they piled us in there. And they was doing the commercial, and then they took us out one at a time and said, basically, see how many kids you can get in, or how much storage room is inside the car. And so there I was, everything else just pulled out, like, where have I been?
Oh my goodness.
But I was probably 9 or, well, see, it's before Dad died, so I was probably about 9 or so.
Oh wow. So it's funny. If there was ever a show I wanted to be on, and I think this would have been on, when you were younger too, was Bozo. It was a Chicago show, I want to say.
Yeah.
And I used to all the time, like they had this one game and it had the buckets and you had to stand behind the line. And for each ping pong ball that you got in a bucket, you got a bigger and bigger and bigger prize. And you got to keep all the prizes. And I thought, and I'm pretty sure everybody who's ever watched that show probably said the same thing: is I could get all the way to the last bucket.
Oh yeah, I remember that show too.
And that was like the one thing I always wanted to do. And I don't even think that's a thing. I don't think Bozo's on anymore. I mean, that was a long time ago though.
I think Bozo is in the geriatric ward now or something.
Oh, he's probably passed.
Or passed
now. Yeah, goodness, that was years ago. What was one vacation that lasted too long? Would this be the van one? Maybe that
probably. Jeff, I was thinking about that. Is there two of them? One on my trip to Fort Jackson. Basic. That was a vacation too way too long. No,
that wasn't a vacation.
No. Probably 1 year we went to Florida, and we had a Dodge custom van, 350 Dodge van, had captain's chairs in it, the whole bit. It was a nice van, and we got down near Lakeland, and the oil pressure went to zero. And I pulled off the road to a gas station called AAA. Anyway, they allowed us to go to the airport at Lakeland. Actually, we got a rental car, went the rest of the way. But the vacation was great. But getting there, and they say half the fun's getting there. In that case, the other half was getting back. Because come find out, it was we'd drive about an hour or so, then have to sit and park for about 15 or 20 minutes. Then we drive it again, and come find out I was using an oil that was paraffin based. And whenever it got hot, the whole bottom, the oil was in a big sludge, and would come up and close off the oil pump or the filler or the intake, and it was zero oil pressure. And then when I let it cool, it dropped back down the bottom of the pan, and I drive about another hour before it got warm enough to pump it in the oil pickup, and for it clog it up again. So we came back from just south of Lakeland, Florida, all the way to Dixon in 1 hour sprints.
1 hour, but that was a Disney trip, right?
That was a Disney trip.
Yeah. So, and we've been to Disney. That's my only time going to Disney.
2019.
Yeah, I call that Misery World. I mean Disney World. Yeah, no.
Well, it's definitely changed in the last few years.
Something else. What sound drives you crazy? Don't say the sound of my voice.
No. If they ever allow the shooting of radios in vehicles, those loud, when the car comes up and the bass is so loud in the car, you can hear it 5 cars away. For some reason, that's just irritating to me. Always has been in my entire life. But that's the irritating sound. It's just that bass notes just rattling. In the car.
Yeah. No, I get that. Would you describe yourself as an extrovert or an introvert?
Definitely an extrovert.
For sure. Like, I don't think we've ever been to a restaurant and you not talk to everybody you walked by. Like, I don't, and you don't know half of them.
well, some of them, preaching over a number of years, you recognize people's faces, but don't know them, but they recognize you. So I'm afraid that if I don't speak to somebody, they may take that as an insult. And summary. So I'll try to do that to try to alleviate any kind of problems.
I think that's just, to me, that's like just social culture though too, right? Like if you're at work and you're walking by multiple desks, hey, good morning, Jim. Hey, good morning, Bob. Right. Like you walk by one desk, don't see somebody's name. Oh, he must be mad at me today.
I think that's a sign of courtesy as well.
It is.
You're spending your time, at least to acknowledge that they are there.
Absolutely. We got one last question.
Okay.
This is an easy one. Are you more of a dog person or a cat person, and why?
Maybe
it's not so easy.
Maybe it's not so easy because we had Buster. We had him for like 17 years. It was a short-haired collie, and we loved him. And so and we especially when he got older, we run our schedule around
Mm-hmm.
what we do for Buster. But the last few pets we have all been cats.
Yes, that's true.
And so I reckon I'll be a cat person, because, well, Jed died whenever we was building the,
Oh,
you
he
know,
passed away when we were in Ohio.
well, y'all were down here at the time, I thought. But anyway,
No.
maybe not. Okay.
Yeah.
But anyway, um, anyway, he got bit by a snake.
Yeah.
Snake bit. But cats are easier to put up with. You just make sure you got food out there and everything else. They're good for a week. And they don't, they say cats can understand over 5,000 commands and ignore every one of them. And I believe that's for sure. Our cats definitely did that.
That is a fact, because I know Jimmy understands every command that involves, do you want to go outside or do you want food? And that's
Right.
it. If I say that, that's what it is. All right. So that was instinctive response. Instinctive response is a chance for people to get to know Dudley, but I never even said his name before we got started. He actually said his name before I did. This is Dudley Daniel. This is my wife's father, who I've met. We were dating probably 2-3 weeks before I actually met you. Yeah, I'd met her, and many of you know this. I met her in Nashville at a Hank Williams Jr. concert, but we met maybe a few weeks later. But I don't want to. Let's not talk about when we met. Let's back this all the way up. Let's talk about like your beginnings, your upbringings, things like that. So right off the bat, where were you born?
I was born here in Dixon, in a hospital that's now been tore down. It's Dixon General Hospital, in January of '61. And actually, that was a blizzard that year. That was the blizzard of '61. It's even in the history books. But my dad and granddad, my dad wanted me to be born in the South. He wanted me to be a Yankee
because he's from the North.
No, he's from the South too. He was born in Burns too.
From the North?
No, we lived up there. Oh, my grandfather. My grandfather was from Pennsylvania.
Okay.
And anyway, they worked at the soda plant in Detroit, and so they were up there when I was born.
Your dad,
my granddad both, and just happened was living with my grandmother while I was being born.
Okay.
I mean, so they were all the men were up north, and the snowstorm and stuff hit, the blizzard, and they couldn't come down. So I know my grandma used to kid me and everything else. She said I brought in a snowstorm when I came, and so anyway,
yeah.
But then we moved up there. Then I remember I was in the elementary school. My dad said we're moving back down south. He said north wasn't. I lived in Detroit in a place called Royal Oak, and he said then that Detroit wasn't a fit place to raise a family, and that was back in the 50s.
Really?
And said it wasn't fit space to move back down here.
Okay, and then you obviously moved here, Tennessee, back to Dixon area. You lived you guys lived in Burns the whole time?
In Burns.
Yeah. Okay, so Burns, Tennessee, and you grew up here.
Yeah.
The rest of your life.
The rest of my life. Yeah. I grew up I had a scoutmaster that I've told him. I actually told him this before. Most of my good memories as a child involved him.
Okay.
Because my dad was killed when I was 12.
Right, and that's what I was going to get into. That whole situation. What do you know of that story and how that took place?
He was an insurance man, and so he'd been used to carrying. That was back when insurance men would go to people's houses and collect the money for the policies.
Really?
He go every week and kept. Well, policies on like a dime, 15 cents a week or a month, and so of course that was a lot of money back then.
Yeah.
But so he'd had a lot of money, for the time. But he had just quit the insurance part, more for life and casualty, and so he just quit there to go work with my mom worked, so they could spend more time together. He was always gone. So anyway, then he dropped us off at church one Wednesday night and told us that my grandmother, which lived behind us, not behind us, but lived just a few blocks from us, was going to bring us home. And last thing he said Grandma, Mama's her name, we called her. He said, Mama's going to take y'all home. Y'all be good. See you later. And that was the last thing my dad told me. And anyway, then they found him. That was Wednesday. They found him Friday in White House, Tennessee. He'd been shot.
Oh, wow. Yeah, White House. That's a haul from here.
Yes.
It's a ways. Yeah. So, and the story being that he picked up a hitchhiker possibly.
That's what they think, he picked up a hitchhiker. Yeah, because he was real bad about picking up hitchhikers.
Yeah.
Because he hitchhiked a lot when he was growing up. stuff. So he thought you returned the favor.
Yeah, absolutely. And you were how old again?
I was 12.
12 years old. So you had a general concept. Obviously, you have a younger brother and some
Yes, and
sisters.
3 sisters.
Yeah. So you had a general. You actually were kind of coming. I mean, basically, was almost what Ethan's age is now.
Right.
But you had a general idea, of like, oh wow, this is huge. Like, how did that, like, as a young man coming into like his teenage, his pubescent period, how did that affect you in like your learning and like becoming an adult?
That was, and my dad, by the way, he was born the 4th of July, and
Hmm.
the death certificate said he died September the 11th.
Oh wow.
So we choked.
Wow.
Had a very patriotic dad.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I didn't even know about September 11th.
yeah, yeah.
You know.
But that as far as male figures around, I
Mm-hmm.
reckon as much as anything. I had a guy named Eddie. I won't call his last name, but he was our scoutmaster,
Mm-hmm.
and he was excellent. I mean, he and a guy named Booty has
His
since
real name's
passed.
Booty.
His name was actually Buford,
Oh, okay. So
and
it's
they
short.
called him Buddy. Everybody called him Booty. But and he passed away about 2 years ago.
Mm.
But anyway, they were always doing something. His dad and mom had a big farm
Mm-hmm.
in northern Dixon County, not just between here and Charlotte.
Mm-hmm.
Had quite a few acres, and so he was there all the time camping. We'd camp a couple times a week. I mean, a couple times a month. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
and he was always doing something. So he was really the male um, role model, if you will. I mean, he didn't treat me like a son or anything.
Right.
But he was
Right.
always there. If I needed something, or if I needed help to Boy Scouts and stuff, he was always there. And so
Mm-hmm.
he fulfilled that role probably as much or more than probably anybody else did, not knowing.
Right.
And I told him it's been about a year ago, or maybe a little less. I saw him one time, and he was with a group of friends, and I made that comment to him. I said,
That's
Eddie, I said, I'd have very few childhood memories that you are doing play a major part in.
that's awesome.
And he didn't know that, 'cause he was just doing his job. But he's a nice guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
But it's, I mean, you it's funny. I've said this, and I tell James this all the time, like, because, we talk about the differences of like how some people are blood relatives and then you have that aren't. And sometimes you're a lot closer to those that aren't. And it may be an accident, like something's taken place that we're not. And it's funny how that happens. And it almost feels like that person is part of your family now,
oh yeah,
and that's kind of remarkable to think about, and then, so for instance, you basically, you had to grow up real quick. I'm guessing
yeah.
things were struggling at home.
I think mother was she was young. I mean, she was 20. See, well, mother was born in 30. I mean, 51, 31, and so he died in 63. So I mean, that is. But she was a young mom. She had a. I said I was the oldest, and Dennis,
Hmm.
and then of course Barbara and Melinda.
Hmm.
Not in that order, but so yeah, I was the oldest. So yeah, I basically worked mow yards and everything else too, and the money I got usually was part of the family.
Yeah, to help.
Hmm.
Right? I mean, because obviously
Hmm.
you had to fill that role.
Mother was a utility girl usually a woman at the local garment factory.
A what factory?
A garment factory. They
Oh,
made shirts and coats.
like the one that Mr. Harris used to work at.
Yes. Hmm.
Oh, okay,
Not
yeah.
that plant, but one like that. Yeah.
Okay, all right. So obviously, growing up, that probably plays a toll. And we'll probably talk a little bit more about that a little bit later, like how that affected how you do things now in life and you look at things.
Hmm.
So let's fast forward a little bit. Did
Okay.
you meet your current wife now before you did the army thing or after you did the
Oh,
army thing?
before. Matter of fact, I was a drummer in school.
Oh, I've heard this a few times.
Yeah.
Let's
And
let's talk about
I
the
was,
drumming
I
years.
mean, I was decent. My traps are out there in the shed and hadn't been touched in
They're probably rusted,
2
brother.
decades.
Yeah.
But um, we had a pretty good sized band, and anyway, a pretty nice band.
Hmm.
And I was also a drummer in a stage band at school. I was actually the backup drummer,
Uh-huh.
but still. The but anyway, she was the reason why I brought that about being drummer. She was dating a friend of mine that was also a drummer in the band, in the marching band. And so, and she'd come back there and see Billy, and we'd kind of joke around a little bit sometimes about it. And I say, "Oh, your girlfriend's not gonna let you out, is she?" and then out of your sight. And so anyway, it just built this girl. But anyway, one night at church, one Sunday night, Robert Jr., which was a rhythm guitar player in our band,
Yeah.
was had to be dating Debbie's sister, Melba,
Okay.
and brought her to church. And Robert came over to me and said, "We're going to go out to the Dairy Queen and get something to drink. You want to go with us?" And of course, she was setting me up with this with Debbie, and so we did, and we started dating a little bit off and on. And anyway, so we ended up getting married. And,
How much? How long did you guys know each other? Like date before that?
Well, I probably met her at school probably about 68, 67, 68.
Mm-hmm.
And we got married in 72.
Oh, so you knew each other
So
for
I
a
knew
little
each
while.
other. Well, we knew each other. Yeah. Mhm.
Okay. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
she was dating another guy for quite a while, and sometimes I go over her house, and she had a pool table downstairs, so we played pool. But sometimes her other boyfriend would be down there too. So
Her other
she had a
boyfriend?
boyfriend. Yeah.
Oh, I can't wait to talk to Debbie
Yeah.
about this. Debbie, I know you're watching because you watched this show.
Yeah.
And he just told me the goods. Oh,
Yeah.
this is
But
so
she
great.
said he'd come over. I think Mr. Harris liked him.
Oh, yeah.
And so he'd come over to the house, and then we're going to turn him away. So sometimes we'll.
Yeah. Well, Mr. Harris was a nice man.
Yeah, Mr. Harris was. Yeah.
It's not the same pool table that was still there.
Yes. Now they put a piece of plywood over it and use it for a buffet.
Wow. That pool table's been around for a while.
And Debbie was a pretty good pool shark. She could have made some money if she wanted to go.
If she wanted to do it
Yeah.
that way. But she's a good, wholesome girl. She wouldn't do that. She wouldn't take people's money.
It depends on what she wanted, and if she couldn't afford it.
So you said 72 y'all married?
I'm married, yeah, June the 2nd of 72.
So, and then you joined the service when?
May the 22nd. May 22nd.
Same year?
Of the next year.
Oh, next year, 73. Okay. So what did you get into before that? Like what was bringing home the bacon, so to speak?
Well, I worked as a draftsman back when you used to have draftsmen's inkers for the highway department. So I was
For TDOT.
For TDOT.
Okay.
And so anyway, so I was working there, and of course, and I joined up. And
so let's back up to that whole draftsman thing. Is that just something? For instance, obviously, because you didn't have a degree going into it, was it just something like you applied to draw?
I actually went to a vocational school.
Oh,
drafting in school.
Okay.
And just so happened, a lot of people could draft, but my penmanship, everything was good, and so I was what they call an inker and a tracer and an inker, because they have the plans, but the engineers do not know how to draw a straight line, and do not know how to use a scale or ruler, and so you had to take their sketches and then draw it out and make it right.
Right.
Because if anybody gets chewed out for something being wrong, it's not the engineers the way they drew it; it's you the way you inked it.
Okay. Was that your first like big time job?
Oh no, that was my second. I'm sorry. Before then, I was a lineman for the telephone company.
A lineman for the telephone company. So you used to climb lines.
I used to climb lines, telephone poles, and put up lines, take them down and stuff.
And that was while you all were married, or before you?
That was before I got married.
Okay. And obviously you became an.
I worked for a phone company. I graduated in '69, summer '69, and I went to phone company right after that. And then and I, of course, I was going to school at night, and this job came up with the state, and they called me up, and so that's what I kind of want to do, and so that's what I went.
So we're going to jump backward forward in a sense, because I want to go off the job things, and then obviously end with your current employment now. So you were a part of TDOT for how many total years?
42 full time and 2 part.
Okay, so. Oh, okay. Yeah. So 44 years in a sense.
44 years, yeah.
44 years worked with TDOT, and you kind of worked your way up through the ranks there.
Yeah. I was a draftsman, went through road designer, then and then actually went to location, and where we'd actually go out and walk roads and find locations for the road to be.
Right.
And so and I draw it like the Robinson Road, I-40, Raleigh Parkway, that a big conglomeration there and everything. That was my design.
Right.
One time they asked me to, because I was kind of a troubleshooter, and they said I could see things that other people couldn't see sometimes about conflicts in traffic.
Right.
And so they gave me what they called a value engineering report, and gave me a bunch of sketches people come up with, and said, "Look at these, figure which ones you like." And
Right.
I didn't like any of them. And so what I did, I started sketching out things myself.
Right.
And then I went down to the commissioner's office and in the state engineer's office, and they had and their staff. And I said, "Here's what I think." And he said, "What about all this money we spent on the other jobs?" And I was a little bit of a smart aleck sometimes.
Yeah.
And I said, "Well, I think all that money was wasted. You should have gave it to me to begin with." And because I knew all of them, so I could joke around. And they
Right.
kind of, and so they said, "Okay, what's so great about yours that others can't?" And I told them what I liked about it, and it was more expensive, but it handled the traffic better and the problems because it had a lot of problems right there.
Right.
And so they laid it out, and done it, and I remember the state engineer said to me, he said, "Okay, but Dudley, Mister Ray Terrell,"
hmm
and he said, "Ray said, Dudley said, okay, you convinced us for it, but later on, this is a lot of money. If this messes up, you know who we're going to come towards."
Yeah.
And so, because at the time it was, it was over $50 million, which was a big deal back then,
Yeah.
even more so than now. But anyway, so they got it. And every time I drive through it now, nobody knows who laid it out. But I said, I know that curve right there we had a lot of problem with. So I
Oh
went
yeah.
in
Yeah.
and 840 around Nashville.
Right.
There was two of us that done that. One guy done the interchanges, and I done all the route studies and locations.
Right.
And so we was actually locked up at the airport for about almost 4 months, uh, sketching stuff out and looking at stuff. And it was kind of fun too, though, because we was using aerial photography a lot
hmm
and quadrangle maps, 7.5 minute quad maps. And if I need another photograph, I just go around and tell the front office, says, "Hey, if you can pilot this out, give me a shot in this area right here," and they would do it. The next day, I'd have that photograph on my desk to use, but lay that out. So I've done about that. And towards the end of my career,
hmm
I was in charge of traffic data office,
hmm
which meant that I basically if you see tubes across the road, or you see where things have been cut in the road for travel for loops,
hmm
all that stuff went to me, and we went there, and that's where we got our federal money, was based on how much the traffic was across the state.
Gotcha. So you
So
had to keep track of
so
it. Yeah.
you had to do it, and you had to do it in so many years, and you had to make sure the numbers were right.
hmm
And so we had 16 field guys that went out and put the tubes across the road.
hmm Yeah.
Yeah. I've been over the job I had in there. I think I've accomplished something. I think I paid my way through it. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't think they wasted any money on me. If
Yeah.
that makes any sense.
No, it does.
I'm not trying to brag. I mean, just
Yeah, but I mean, would you say that you possibly have driven on almost every road in the state of Tennessee?
yes.
For sure.
Every state route in Tennessee I have been on, and most of the county roads.
That's
And what
awesome.
happens is I drive somewhere, and used to have a map. And I wish I knew where that map was. I had a state map,
Yeah.
and I would highlight all the roads I've been on. I looked at that map and I said, "I ain't been on that road yet," and so I take a detour to go around it just so I've been on it.
Just because you want to see it
Yeah.
and make sure.
And when you go to public hearings, it's really good because they see especially up East Tennessee, up in the mountains, they would say, "Well, he's now a town, or he's a city boy, or something like that." Anyway, and
take offense at that.
and yeah, a little bit, yeah, really.
Yeah.
But what happens is I've been all those times. I said, "You know where that big old red barn is that has a hole in the backside?" "Yeah, you been there?" I said, "Yeah, about two doors down from there where that other." And so I know the area before I go, and so and then they'd open up.
Yeah.
And so you had to know the area, know the people, but you can't talk about roads if you haven't been on them.
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. No, and that makes you personable, right?
Yeah,
It
right.
allows you to connect to someone. So let's fast forward. 73. You made a decision to kind of dedicate yourself to a different type of service.
Well,
What was it?
that's 71. Actually, I was in
71.
service before I got married.
Oh, so you were in the service before
Yeah, I
you
was
got
before I
married.
got married. Yeah. Joke was I went to state in 70, went to Army in 71, and got married in 72. So it was all a downhill. And I graduated in 69, so everything I lived downhill every step.
So that was that first longest vacation that you took.
Yes. Uh-huh.
So in 1971, you signed up, like you volunteered,
Yeah,
instead of
yeah.
being
Well, Vietnam was going on,
right.
and so if you volunteered, actually went to the reserve forces. But if you signed up and joined up,
Right.
you could pick your duty stations. You could pick your MOS. You could pick a lot of things a lot better. Just so happened the unit in Dixon was a military police unit.
Okay.
And so it was a 95 Bravo then.
Mhm.
I think they changed numbers now.
31 Bravo now.
31 Bravo.
Yep.
Okay. But and I went to Fort Jackson for my for the 0 weeks in AIT. I mean for basic.
That's where I went.
Then went to Gordon for that's when MP school was at Gordon.
I don't know where it's at now.
Wait,
it's at
is it
Leonardwood.
Leonardwood? Yeah.
Yeah. My
and
grandfather was.
He was at McClellan for a while.
Yeah.
And then it went. But anyway, so went around quite a bit, and it's just so funny because when he was graduating from Sergeant Major's Academy,
Yeah.
I wore my MP, my shirt, my shirt, and it had my had this cross pistols, my name on it, and there was time the guy came up to me that he was an MP, and he said, "I saw your shirt," so we started talking about some of the stuff going on. It's kind of nostalgia and how much things have changed.
Yeah, but it's still a brotherhood or sisterhood. It just depends, it's still like there's a kinship there.
Yeah, well, back then, I'm not sure how it is now, but back then you were actually, it was 9 weeks long, and you actually learned what now policemen and state troopers do.
Right.
I mean, it was, you've done accident investigations, murder investigations too, and all that kind of stuff. Some of the guys actually went CID, and some went to different units when graduated. But it was a lot of people think all MPs do is just drive around, go to donut shops, and
pull people
work
over.
for gates. We didn't. One time, matter of fact, one time I got a call. I was a chase car, and I got a call that this sedan was coming. It had to be an old Rambler back when military used Ramblers on pace.
Okay.
And he called me the car and said he's speeding. Well, I pulled the guy over, and there's a colonel driving. Now, when a colonel's driving, something's wrong. Like
or there's somebody else in the back.
Yeah, somebody else, or somebody else. Yeah. And so I put him over, and just when the base commander, which was a 1-star at that time, was in the back seat. And our provost marshal, was Livingston, Colonel Livingston.
Right.
And back then, I don't know if it is now, back then, enlisted if the officer driving didn't want to, he could not accept a ticket from an enlisted personnel. You had to get an officer to come up there to present him the ticket.
Really?
And so, and he was giving me a hard way to go. He knew I was nervous as a wreck anyway.
Yeah.
And I had just made E5 at that time. Anyway, so I may be going too much detail. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine.
But anyway, so I was sitting there and said, "Colonel," I said, "Your driver's license." And back then, you had to have I don't know if you still do. You had to have a ticket for the car you drove, for your vehicle. You had to have your military driver's license. I mean, your driver's license plus your military ticket showing you can drive that vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
I asked for both of those, and he started giving me he was joking with me, but I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Anyway, the general in back said, like Jimmy, I forgot his name. Said, "Jimmy," because I made a comment for him and said, "If you want to, sir, I can ask Colonel Livingston to come down and present you with the ticket if you don't want to accept it from me." And the guy in back said, like, "Jimmy, just take the ticket. I'll talk to Livingston tomorrow. We'll take care of this. Just accept the ticket and let the guy have some breathing room." Or give the guy a chance, something like that. But anyway, so he took the ticket, and I saluted and backed off. And they kidded me for months after that. They said, talking about the brass that I had to give the colonel, the base commander.
Was that at Campbell?
No, it was actually at Camp Shelby, Mississippi.
Oh, Mississippi. Okay. All right. Yeah. No way. So you basically joined to be an MP.
I joined the MP,
and you were going to be a part of this unit here in town. Which is it? It's not still a thing here in town.
It's back in MP now. Yes.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah. It transferred over a few years later to indirect fire. I mean, to combat support.
Right. And
then that's when I went to Fort Knox and became 11 Charlie.
Okay, so you switched over from being an MP to Mortarman. Was it Mortarman?
Yeah, it was Mortarman.
Mortarman back then.
I was a FART observer.
Okay.
FART observer.
And that was because the way things were, you could change the MOS for the unit you're a part of, obviously, because you don't get.
Well, the whole unit changed over. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, but with that, it's because, like, for instance, it's a little bit different than an active unit. Like active units, if they change it out, it's almost like they flush out all the old people and bring in new. But
they had that chance. You could go with the unit. or you could re-MOS.
Okay.
And
All
I
right.
re-MOSed it to
Right.
at Fort Knox. And then later on, when I went to the academy, um, I went to Benning and got my 11 bush.
Okay. And then you said you went to the academy. So that was when we spoke of this before, like when you were actually teaching at an NCO academy.
It was a Tennessee Military Academy.
Where's that at?
It was in Smyrna, the Air Base in Smyrna.
What are some of the things that you all would teach at that military academy?
We teach direct appointments.
Okay.
We had an OCS class.
Okay.
We had A knock, B knock, S knock, and PLDC.
That was a state-run school?
That was a state-run school, but we had full time that went through it too.
So active duty would come through there just
sometimes active duty would too.
Okay.
If it wasn't a position, if there wasn't a slot open, they could have for the ticket punch, something like that. Somebody would have some full time going through too. It wasn't very many, but sometimes we'd have a full time guy going through. So especially in OCS, sometimes you have people from other states or something like that going through.
Absolutely. So what classes did you get to teach?
I taught all of them.
All of them. Mm-hmm. You got to be a part of all of them. Mm-hmm. You know, I had a chance, and James, this is where, I mean, we met before we started doing the podcast, but the podcast is kind of a birth thing from working at the academy. And I often tell people all the time, like matter of fact, there was a kid I just talked, our division sergeant major's driver. He was talking about, hey, I could go do recruiter, or I could be a drill sergeant, or I could work at the academy. I'm like, go be at the academy. Like you don't understand how awesome that is. And what, like, I know the way I took it in, is like every month I get to meet new kids and get to talk about, we talk about the same thing, but we get to learn new things together. And I felt as if though that was probably one of the jobs in the Army that I, other than being a first sergeant, because I love that, that I really learned a lot, not only about myself, but other people. What did you get from working at an academy?
Well, it was fun in a way because, of course, it was, the teachers were all through S3. And so there again, way different people approach the subject. I mean, especially PLDC, because we had people coming through from all different backgrounds. We had some coming through from the combat arms.
Right.
We had some Airedale aviation people.
Oh, it's Airedales, yes.
Yeah. And we had some people. We had people that were unit clerks. We had a couple even come through Graves registration. That's what they call it now.
What is it?
Graves registration.
What would they do?
They were the ones that basically went on the battlefield and actually either buried the.
Oh, like mortuary affairs.
Mortuary affairs. Okay, we called it grave registration back then.
Oh, wow.
And so, and then I went from there to Army Reserve, the 125th ARCOM, and taught there, and that was good too because you actually saw more people. We still taught the National Guard, but we had a lot of. I was lucky enough that maybe because I don't know. Of course, I didn't go SF or anything, but when SF officers were teaching with us, because someone had come from the Bragg area, but they always wanted to team up with me because I was like a sponge because they was always teaching me stuff.
Yeah,
and I was always wouldn't turn away from them.
Yeah,
I would turn any of it down. But anyway, so I enjoyed that. You go out in the field for 17 days, and I liked that. Sometimes as aggressor, sometimes as squad leader, sometimes while I never been to combat, I would be a sponge for people that had been, trying to learn as much as I can.
Right.
Because I knew they did and they'd been there. So maybe anything that they said might help me, or if I could push on that information to somebody else, then it might keep them from coming back as casualty of some sort.
Right. Well, there was you said even though I didn't go to combat, but if you think about it, you came in at the end of the Vietnam War, really, because you wouldn't have got sent there at the time you came in. Pretty much, you had barely had a couple of years.
Well, I went in. It ended in 75, and I went in May of 71.
Yeah.
So there's still stuff going on, but it's winding down.
It was starting to wind down. And then really nothing picked up. I mean, you had Grenada, but nothing really picked up until the Iraq War in the late 90s. But then you were on the outs because you'd done how many years?
Well, I'd done total of 25.
25 years.
25-6. But just so happened, my name, no number did come up because being as we was in a school,
Mhm.
and also was EH with well over 20 years too.
Right.
My place of deployment was supposed to be at Fort Benning, and I was on the second group to go there. They had had about 7 or 8 to go the first time. Their names
Right.
called up, and and then my name got called up to go there. And they weren't less than them. Some of the guys who was in my unit that was head the first. They've been there about a couple of weeks, and they already had everything set up for me because my name was on the. They said they knew my
Mhm.
name was on the next list.
Mhm.
Well, I got a call at work one afternoon from our unit clerk and said, "Dudley, you're one of the luckiest people I know." I said, "How's that?" He said, "Your name came up this morning to go to Benning." I said, "Really?" I said, "Well, when do I get my orders?" He said, "They've been rescinded." I said, "What do you mean they've been rescinded?"
Uh-huh.
He said, "They've got because they had telexes back then and stuff more so, and the
Tell
telex
Oh,
and
oh yeah, yeah.
fax machines."
Right.
And he said, "We got your orders coming this morning to report." And he said, "Right after when I came back in from lunch," I said, "I was going to give you the rest of the day and let you enjoy lunch before I give you a call to be at Benning."
Right.
And he said, "You're lucky." I said, "How's that?" And he said, I got a text. I got a fax right after that, and said all orders that have not been implemented hold for further notice." So in
Okay.
other words, then nobody else is going to go. That's when they called the war off.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
so they said, if your name's already been called, if he gave me that call that morning, I would have gone to Benning for probably at least 2 months. But being he didn't call me that morning, my orders wasn't really didn't instigate them,
Mhm.
and so therefore I didn't go.
And you retired not long after that, though, didn't you?
Um,
From the service.
I retired in '96,
Okay, so it would have been okay, a few. Oh, it would have
November
been
15th, '96.
96. So here it is. You started working T dot, and then you also joined the army, and then you got married, and so let's say from the early '70s all the way up to the '90s, you're doing two jobs, really, in a
Pretty much,
sense.
yes.
I mean, you probably I know we've
Mhm.
talked, and you did like a lot of those side jobs to
Yeah.
make extra money to do things, but you're working
Mhm.
in T dot,
Mhm.
and you're helping design roads and get things right, but then also you're fulfilling your legal obligation that you signed
Yep.
up for as a service member.
Mhm.
Was it like one like you because you were in the reserve? You guys were doing like the weekend a month, and
Actually, when
or is it
I was
more
at the academy, we was doing every other weekend.
every other weekend?
Yeah, I had a good points card. But yeah, we were doing every because with there was they'd come down with an edict that you couldn't get promoted really unless you go through PLDC.
Right,
You had to go through in order to get 4 to 5. You had to get PLDC.
right.
Well, we had a lot of people around. Like I said, even from other states
Hmm.
that needed that ticket punched,
Yeah.
and so especially all during the summer. And then we had OCS going on too, and had some
Hmm.
direct appointment classes. So every weekend
Hmm.
we could go for every weekend.
Yeah, and so it's like that now too.
Mhm.
Like they've switched it because before you could get promoted and then you go, but now well, it's weird because
Mhm.
they've done some things because of people getting deployed and not being able to go. But it's like, hey, is it really fair that they can't
Yeah.
get promoted because they can't? And they're doing so they've. But however, majority of it is you
Mhm.
have to go to the school before you can get promoted. But
Yeah.
so here you are. You did 25 years there. You're
Mhm.
still chugging along at T dot. At what point in there, right? At what years did you decide, hey, and you went and did the Nashville School of Preaching to become a preacher?
Well, actually, I've done that. I've done that at night. I actually graduated from there, and hmm,
What year would that have been?
it's about. I was actually preaching while I was. I went to preaching school when I was actually in the reserve.
Really?
Mhm.
So,
So it was like it was my Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday night, and
mhm,
so I was going because Friday and Saturday and Sunday if I needed to go to wherever we were because we went all over the place. I mean, when it was a reserve, you went to. I've been to. I taught at Benning,
mhm.
which I love Benning. Um, I didn't like Knox, but we go to Fort McClellan. We sometimes there was a big guard base down at Catoosa, down at Tunnel Hills, Georgia, that the reserves taught a lot,
Okay.
and so we went down there some, and just Milan. munition arsenal in West Tennessee.
Okay, see, so when you say Catoosa, my brain goes straight to Korea, because in Korea, that's what they call the Korean soldiers that work hand in hand. Like, you have the Rock Army, the normal Republic of Korean Army, and then you have the Katoosas of the Rock Army, and they're the Korean augmentation to United States Army. So that's why it's Katoosa. So when you say that, I'm like, what's he mean?
Well, actually, Catoosa was an old cavalry base in World War One. They called cavalry, the cavalry troops in World War One.
Well, I'm in the Cav now, so
but these were the 4-legged.
Oh yeah. Now it's a lot different. It's a lot different now. Yeah. So you had made the decision. So you were doing the TDOT thing, doing your reserve thing on the also, and then you also decided to go to school to learn how. Well, it's not. There's really not learning how, but
no, I really done that to be a better Bible student.
Right. Okay.
And then when I got out and when I graduated, so to speak, I just got a call one time and say, "Hey, we need a preacher. Would you come out and check out?" That was
just at one of the churches.
It's at Sylvia.
Oh, the one that you were preaching at when when
y'all got married.
Yeah. So if we back this up, right, there was obviously some. So like in my life, we didn't like church wasn't the thing. Like, it going or being a part of a congregation and worship and all this stuff. It wasn't a thing in our lives, but in your life, like, was there a point where you knew? Was it from the time you were born, or just like you remember, like this is something we did?
I joke around and said, "Well, I wasn't bad. I wasn't always a preacher."
Yeah.
But there again, and I never thought migraines would be a blessing.
What do you mean by that?
Because I had bad migraines. I've had bad migraines. Matter of fact, growing up, right. I mean, sometimes mother would take me to the hospital, and I'd take a shot, and they knock me out a day or so I get over my migraine. But and Dr. Bell, when I came in, everything else, he knew what it's about.
Right.
But anyways, I couldn't smoke pot, and the pot back in the '60s it was the thing.
Right.
And I couldn't drink.
Well, that's good. It's a wholesome show.
Yeah, it was amazing because I never thought, because I had headaches sometimes where if a fly came walking across the door, I could hear it.
Right.
Just bang my head. And but I never thought something like that would be a blessing, but it was, because that kept me away from all that.
Oh yeah.
And as such, I was usually the designated driver.
For friends.
Yeah. And if I didn't do it, and this is back in the '60s again, I knew that if I didn't drive them, then they would usually try to drive, or one of them would, and something would happen. So I'd drive them around. And drive them, because they'd go to the bar and they'd get drink everything else, and I'd take them back home.
Yeah.
And knowing all well that I was not going to be under influence and all that. And some of the families that I drove for, they were highly respectable families.
Yeah, we're not going to say any of their names.
No, I don't say any names. Yeah. But like one of them's brother was a circuit judge.
Wow.
Matter of fact, his sister is now a circuit judge.
Well, yeah,
his aunt was a judge.
But you know what? He took the right conscience of having a DD.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah. And it was odd, but anyway, but then one thing good about designated drivers, you go in some place, you can say, "I'm the designated driver." All your meals are free. And so I got a lot of free meals because I was just sitting there driving around to somebody who's getting drunk at the bar.
Right.
But anyway, that's
because really what we're diving into is spiritual fitness in a sense, and religion. However, at what point in your life was that? Like, was that something in the household when you were a kid, or did that something that grew over time?
Our family was always, and I use the word religious in a very loose term. We went to church almost every Sunday, and my grandmother was very much so. She had a very, very, she played a pivotal part in my life.
Right.
My grandmother did. But
that was Mama, right?
My mama.
Yeah, okay.
My mother's mother.
Right.
But and when I was young, I was a Bible teacher. I mean, I'm 14, 15 years old. I teach it. If the other teacher didn't show up, if class didn't show up, I usually was in there. But just kind of just a passing fad, nothing I really took serious as far as that goes.
More passive than it was active.
Yeah, so it wasn't something I actually pursued.
Right.
And then when I got that offered to come teach that time, did some try for that preacher.
Mm-hmm.
As a matter of fact, my last two of those preaching jobs I got because of Debbie.
Mm-hmm.
One time because Debbie was in Kroger's and found out that I just talking to one of the girls that was her elder's wife, and said we're looking for a preacher, and Debbie said, "Well, Dudley just graduated from preaching school or from from biblical studies,
right?"
And so they said, well, I got a call. Somebody said, "How'd you get your call to preach?" Well, Daryl called me on the telephone, asked me to come down one Sunday. And so that was my calling.
So you literally got a phone call.
I literally got a phone call.
Yeah. But I guess because everyone, and that's the thing. It's like one of those things where it touches you or it reaches you to a certain point,
Mm-hmm.
and then you start like your faith goes to a different level, right?
Yeah. And it's kind of people put preachers on a pedestal. So you got
and it shouldn't be, right?
And it shouldn't be, no.
Yeah.
And so you've got to live a certain way, whether you want to or not. That don't sound right. You got to live a certain way because you never know when somebody's going to see you doing something that it might cause a stumbling block to them.
Right. So almost like the fact that you felt that way, it helped you gear your life a certain way.
Yeah, it keeps me in the time where I don't do certain things if you want to. That makes any sense. I mean, like one day was on a job site up in Cookville, and I ordered my tea with unsweet with no ice.
Right.
Well, I was in Cookville one day at a restaurant with consultants and stuff, and some of them had actually ordered drinks.
Right.
But they're consultants; they can do what they want to. Anyway, and I had this tea, and it looked almost like a dark lager. And it just happened, a guy came back and said, "Hey, Dudley, how you doing?" And patted me on the shoulder and looked around. It was a preacher friend I knew. He and his wife was up there visiting. And so I said, "Fine." I said, "By the way, this is tea." He said, "I know." but anyway.
Yeah.
But you never know when somebody's going to be around or where that influence may be bad or good. So you got to be.
But that translates though too. That it translates also in your faith, like because there is someone in faith. There's someone around.
The Lord's always watching.
Right. And so it's almost like what it's like to have the physical presence of that, but also that spiritual presence.
Right.
That's the same thing. So you can equate it.
Right. You have to.
And that's helped you probably stay the course over the years too, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. I mean, you're one of the few people that seasons my hair down, so to speak. What little bit I have.
Actually, we should have had you bring the wig on. He has this wig. He has this wig, and it's hilarious.
It's a joke wig. I mean,
it is. It's hilarious.
I do not wear a wig.
Maybe he does.
We don't know. The Lord has blessed me with a lot of forehead.
A lot of forehead. Matter of fact, right before we got started, his wife was trying to put blush on his head.
Yeah, because I made a joke about the glare being too high. Yeah,
but you go ahead. You were talking about like one of the other pieces of let your hair down type thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, because you and I, we can talk in acronyms all day long.
Yes,
because the military, we can have a whole conversation, and
right.
somebody else don't know what we're talking about. It's totally left out.
Yeah.
So, of course, we kind of joke around sometimes,
right.
but like that, and we play jokes on Debbie sometimes.
Right.
She's very.
Yeah, some of the jokes are funny. Some of the jokes are funny.
Yeah,
though.
But you can't do that very often because somebody might take you as being serious.
Mm-hmm.
You take it, it's a joke, or you get around.
Right. But we're getting kind of closer to more than an hour, but I really wanted. No, it's fine. I wanted it kind of geared towards the faith, because obviously it is about spiritual fitness, and I have tons of friends. Justin Klein was on the show once already. Matt Thomas has been on the show before, and they're they're faithful men who do they may not go to a congregation like ours. However, if you get to know them, you understand them. But it's like they're both fit guys, but they're at the same time they work hard at what they do. But there's also that inside thing. We all know we need it. It's that spiritual fitness. Yeah. Like you can be physically fit and be a train wreck in life.
Yeah.
But there's other things that can help, such as faith and understanding that. What would you say to somebody who is in that train wreck in life? Like, hey, what can you do to?
Regardless of how good you are and how physically fit you are and everything else, eventually that body is going to break down.
It is.
Like I'm almost 72. I think I'm fairly fit. A lot of people in their 70s are definitely not worse shape than I am.
Yeah, well, you just had a surgery like mine. I just had it.
Yeah, my shoulder.
They're very similar surgeries, and you were in your 70s when you had it, didn't you?
I I was 68, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
But the thing is, but people too much faith in the physical, and when it goes wrong, they have
Mhm.
nothing else to fall back on.
Right.
If they keep their faith in line, if you will, and focus on that as well, at
Mhm.
least when your body starts going down, your faith is still strong, and you just
Mhm.
the emphasis you put on your physical body, keeping it in shape and all, you can kind of refocus some of that on your faith and helping others and doing things and being there for others.
Mhm.
I know this is, and you'd be surprised what you have in life that may translate over to be able to help others outside of the physical.
Mhm.
One just real quick, my dad was killed I was 12. Now, somebody else has a serious, like somebody committed suicide, or they lose their dad or parents at a real young age.
Mhm.
I can talk to them because I've been there.
You relate.
I can relate to them. I
Mhm.
know what they're going through.
Yep.
And somebody that hasn't, they go up there and say, "Oh, I'm so sorry for you." Well, you don't know what we've been through, so you
Mhm.
can't relate. And so let that physical um, decline, if you will,
Mhm.
use that nothing else to build up your
Mhm.
spiritual, and
Mhm.
use that to help people out.
Right.
You're more stronger spiritually than you are physically if you focus.
Oh, absolutely. You can get like there's so much more that can be done.
Hmm.
Have there been times though when you you really had to rely upon that because your spiritual
Yeah,
fitness because you were like, I just don't know.
yeah. Debbie's going to kill me for this, but that's okay. Um, there was a while back when, as a matter of fact, it's August of 16.
Hmm.
Um, Debbie went in for some tests. She wasn't feeling good.
Right.
She was
Right.
just feeling weak and everything.
Right.
And actually, she went to the doctor, and they done
Right.
some tests, and so they sent her to another doctor to see.
Right.
And Dr. Joseph came in and said she had cancer.
Okay. I remember this. Yeah.
Yeah, and and it it was kind of precancerous. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
it was something that was she was going to have. It just a matter of how bad it was going to get or how soon it was
Right.
going to be bad. And at that time, I just totally lost. I mean, because my life, as you know,
Right.
is really centered around my family, with Debbie and my family.
This right here, it just sits
Yeah,
right here. It says
yeah,
you can't see it, but it says family, and everything in this house speaks
yeah.
family. You know,
Like y'all come down this weekend. Just
it
it
was
was
a
a
long
short,
drive.
yeah, it's just a long drive and everything
Yeah.
else. But our family is complete. I mean,
Yeah.
all Kim and
Right.
Kristen, of course, live here in town. We can see them
Right.
occasionally. But we saw y'all back in June,
Right.
which was
When you came and
when you
visited.
came to
Yep.
visit. Yeah,
Yeah.
when you graduated,
Right.
and before we saw y'all Christmas before, of course. But we see you just a couple of weeks or maybe a week and a half in a
Hmm.
whole year,
Right.
and we miss seeing y'all, and we miss seeing the grandkids
Right.
growing up. So my life is really around Debbie and the family,
Yeah.
and my church family.
So you went. So that's a testament, right? Like for instance, you were dealing with some internal
Yeah.
struggles that you probably had to feel like you had to get out. What did you? I mean, what did you do? What was your reaction
Um,
to that?
well, one thing I did, matter of fact, I done a sermon on this a couple weeks ago. Why me? Why me? And talking about
Right.
me and Debbie. And then I thought, why are we different than anybody else?
I ask
And
that
so,
all the
excuse me.
I ask that
Yeah,
sometimes, and I'm just like, what makes me so different? So I
yeah,
understand. Yeah.
yeah. Because they said it only happened to the other guy.
Yeah.
Well, to people out there, I'm the other guy. So why can't it happen to me?
Right. Exactly.
But we need to do that both ways. Instead of saying why me when things go wrong, we really need to say, somebody ask, why me when things go good? Like, why was I blessed the way I am?
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
but anyways, when Debbie, when you got that, and right now, as you know, and Debbie will probably watch this and find out too, every day's a blessing
Yeah.
I get with her.
Right.
We, as you know, and as you can contest, uh, we have a good life. We have a good married life. We pick
Yeah.
on each other. We love each other. We love
Yeah.
each other's
Yeah.
company. We play jokes on each other. She's an easier target than I am
How
usually.
many
But,
years? How many years has it been now?
uh, too many. Well, no, 50, been 42, 52, 40.
52.
Well, we got married in 72.
72. You
So
got
that's
married.
52 years.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
I forgot.
Yeah. A long
Mhm.
time. And she grew up in a house of faith. So, and her
Yeah,
faith,
she did. Uh-huh.
like, sometimes I often wonder, like h- how they make it through with guys like us. I just don't
I've
know.
wondered that myself too because um, it seemed like every time I left, um, something would break down.
It's
I mean, I
absolutely.
remember one time I was at Benning, I think it was at Benning, and she called me up and said, "Dudley, the water here's broke."
Hmm.
And we had 3 kids,
Right.
and they were young, um, and so here I was miles away,
And you can't
and
do
I
anything.
can't leave.
No.
And I said, Debbie, I can't do anything. I'm out in the field.
Like, even if you wanted to drive away, you couldn't drive
I couldn't
because you
drive.
were in the middle of the
Yeah.
woods. Yeah.
Matter of fact, I went in to get some stuff and take a shower, and I got a message, call me home.
Oh, yeah.
Guys, before cell phones. She
Oh,
wrote.
absolutely.
And so, and I was calling her, and before I left, she called back. The head shed called and said, "Your wife's on the phone." And I said, "Okay." And I went back up there, and she said, "Dudley, don't worry about it." So what's the matter? She said, "I called the gas department, and they understood the situation. We got tomorrow morning to put in a new water heater."
Yeah.
And so she is very
Sometimes.
resourceful.
Yeah, absolutely. But so, and obviously you've gone through struggles, whether it be the long trip, the Disney
Mhm.
problem, or, and I've heard about like different, like like you had the medical issue, and it's a scare,
Mhm.
or whether it be the water heat broken, you find that your faith is what helps strengthen you
Mhm.
to get through to the other side,
Yeah.
because you may not know where the end of the tunnel is, but you can kind of see the light down there.
Yeah.
It may take a while to get there, but would you, if, let's just say this, right, and there's people out there who they may be struggling asking questions of why this, why that, I mean, would you give them a general cardinal direction to help them with their faith in life?
Oh, that takes a lot of soul searching themselves, because one thing you got to do is you got to realize, you got to ask yourself, really, what am I doing? Where am I heading?
Where am I heading?
Where am I heading?
Yeah.
If I keep going on this path, where will it end? And
Yeah.
sometimes it ends in that train wreck you was talking about.
Yeah.
And I've found in the people that in my life, 'cause I've had other times too, we're not discussing here, obviously,
Hmm.
and people that I've counseled or been with, sometimes military people, sometimes just church people, sometimes just
Right.
guys I know.
Right.
And there's been times people just see me on the street and start talking. I don't know who they are, and Adam, and we just
Right.
start talking about it. Um, but you got to know where do you want to be.
Right.
And most people, I remember seeing a sign one time, said, if you don't know where you're going to end up somewhere else.
Yeah.
And so you got to figure out, what do you want to do? I don't like my life. Well, what's in your life you don't like?
Yeah.
Um, and so
All these problems are happening.
yeah,
Well,
well, why are they happening?
yeah.
I
Yeah.
can't afford to pay my electric bill. Well, why? Well, I'm going to bar 3 nights a week,
Yeah. Yeah.
or I'm playing. I think the worst thing anything is the lottery. But I'm wasting money on this and doing this or here.
Right.
Well,
Right.
sometimes you got to sit back and focus. What really,
Yeah.
and what's really important to me, and what do I want?
Right. Right. Right.
And most people have no idea what the path. They just live path. They just live their life just wherever the wind moves them, and that's not a way to travel.
No goal.
No goal whatsoever.
Yeah. But in this sense, though, we're talking about an eternal goal.
We're talking
Right.
about, yeah, right.
And we
Eternal.
want it, like, where do I want eternity? Because of my soul
Yeah.
needs, it's going to rest somewhere.
Mhm.
And do I want it in a bad place or in a good
Yeah.
place? And in a sense, the way that transcends through life, it goes to the good place if I'm doing what's required of me,
Mhm.
type thing. But the faith is like, that's one of
Mhm.
the things that we have to be able to understand.
Mhm.
Hey, this is where I can lead.
Yeah. Like LA, I read an article the other day in LA, or saw it on television the other day, where they interviewed a guy on the street
Hmm.
that lived on the street. And he said, why would I want to leave the street? He said, the city is paying me $650 a month to live here on the street, to be homeless,
Yeah.
and give me $200 a month in food stamps.
Mm.
Well, see what happens. That's just, you're making the situation worse. So that guy never is going to get out of the situation, because you've made it comfortable for him.
Right. Right.
And sometimes the Lord makes life uncomfortable to make us sit back and figure
Right.
out just what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny you said that. Sometimes they're made uncomfortable. you got to learn to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, which is an episode that I did with John Bonilla, 102. And that's what we spoke about. It's like, you tend to like those uncomfortable moments of being in the field miles away, and your wife's here with 3 young children. Wow. Yeah, I guess there would be 3 young children. And she's got a water heater that's broken, and we can't wash clothes, and we can't take baths and stuff like that. So it's like, how do I become comfortable with that? And it can be tough, right?
You got to have, just got to have faith.
Right. And you pray about it.
You pray about it and everything else. And things will work out for good. The Bible says all things work together for good to him that love the Lord.
Right.
It may not come out like you want to.
Right.
But sometimes those uncomfortable times may make you stronger and make you change direction to do what is right.
That makes sense to me. I mean, I guess there's a reason why I kind of transitioned from what I used to believe to what I believe now, but hey, Dudley, I think I'm really appreciative of this. I didn't think this would be a sermon, so to speak, because I felt like it's like, let's open the door first, right? It's like, it's one of those things like you don't bring somebody straight into a congregation, a church house, and then it's like, all right, you're baptized now. No, they've got to learn. They've got to open a door. They've got to find their way, their goal in life, and understand it.
It's their desire, and they're trapped there on. All you can do is help. You can just help them on their journey. You can't make it for them.
Yeah, it's that whole lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. Yeah, but I really do appreciate this. I thought this is like, we talked about so much with leadership and like that with instinctive influences with Ed and I, and this is more like, and believe me, I know Ed or James, because he likes to be referred as James now. I don't know why he changed it on me. It's crazy. So we talk about this on our own, like our faith and stuff like that, but we hadn't had an episode dealing with that. And I think it's like, well, everybody has their own thing that makes them tick. And I think that this is one of the things that has to be spoken about. That, hey, listen, faith is an important thing to me. It's an important thing to you. And it's helped us lead a certain way, like my moral code now is a lot different than when I was at Sergeant E5 sitting in there dating your daughter.
I'm going to say one on here. I remember whenever you asked for Michelle's hand.
Yeah.
For what it's worth, he invited us to a Cracker Barrel for a conversation for a meal.
Yeah.
And he said later, the reason why he went to the Cracker Barrel, because that was a public place and I wouldn't shoot him there.
Whatever. We're not going to talk about that.
No.
Yeah.
But
you're
definitely a different person.
That's what I'm saying, though. The faith has helped transform more. My integrity, I think, is a lot stronger. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm not sure if that happened to you through the years too. Maybe you feel like you need to be more outstanding, and but you also come from a different generation where it was taught different. So, but with that, thank you very much for being part of the show. I think people will get something from this, and I'm hoping if they do turn to the Lord, or they do crack open the Bible and start reading some things.
Well, the biggest thing, my best recommendation would be is about 2 or 3 things. One is if you don't like where you're going right now, don't like your life, check where you are. And then see what the path you're on and make corrections for it's everlasting too late.
Right. And
because who knows, you may be the influence of somebody else, because they may be using you as a role model.
Right.
You never know what kind of influence you might get down the road. Let's say if you're an alcoholic, if you sober up and say, no, I'm going to drink more, how many other people can you influence the same way or talk into it?
Yeah.
So we are all leaders one way or the other.
Right. Influencing. It's a thing.
You can be a sergeant, or you can be an officer. You can either lead good or bad.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. You're right. So, hey, with that, hey, thank you so very much. As always, I'm gonna hit my little button here. But we always ask you all to check us out on YouTube. Check us out on Facebook. 101 Instinctive Influence. 101 Influence is the what you look up. But with that, I'm not James, but I am Brian, and I thank you so much for listening and watching. Make sure you check us out on all the platforms. Have a great day.